All right. Hello, everybody. Thank you for sticking with me. I know I'm running a few minutes late, and we have a massive slate on deck, so I won't waste too much time. But on this show, Tournament Strategy Show, we look at last night's slate. We talk about what went well, what might not have gone as well. And then we'll also kind of go game by game, talk about some plays that look a little interesting. And then, of course, on the pre-lock show, which is for VIP members only, link in the description, um, we talk about the leverage plays, the core plays, what we're actually doing on this slate, and how I'm using the domination station on that particular slate. So let's look at last night. I'll be the first to tell you, it was not a good night for me. Uh, but that doesn't mean that all of DFS Army did bad. We have my guy Halo 1 got first place in his FanDuel contest, won $750. That's nice. And then I always like to show these wins because Kinstar turned $9 into $750. Like, that's wild. Like, congrats to you, man. Nice job taking down that $3 max. But let's look at the $100,000 winning lineup from last night. Oddly enough, it wasn't actually $100,000 they won. It was a three-way split, so they all won like $48 roughly, or $48,000 roughly. Still a good night in the office. Delon Wright, first and foremost, I had a exposure maximum cap on him, so I was still over the field on Delon Wright, but I didn't have as much as it would have been nice to have. Tyrese Maxey, I had plenty of him, but I also had an exposure maximum on him. So still over the field on both, but not as much. Domination Station, like both, was one of those should have trusted the DS moments. Buddy Hield was a core play, I believe. Sachan was a core play. Jakob Poeltl was a leverage play, so that worked out pretty well. Luka Doncic, I did not have a lot of. He didn't really like surpass his like value based on his price either. But like we talked about on 4-game slates, raw points matter, and so he had a ton of raw points. And even though from like a true value standpoint, it's kind of bleh, solid night, not bad. Still good enough for this slate. Jordan Poole, we're not gonna talk about Jordan Poole, but Klay Thompson had a fantastic night. I was between Jordan Poole and Klay Thompson. Obviously, chose wrong there. But Klay Thompson had a fantastic night, so congrats to him. TJ McConnell made a ton of sense once we found out that Halliburton was going to be out, so everyone had plenty of him. That wasn't super surprising. All in all, a pretty chalky winning lineup, which is why it was split. But it's pretty rare that we don't see at least like one player who's around single-digit ownership. So, interesting thing to see. Michael Ortiz, agreed. It's going to be an exciting slate. We'll see. Hopefully we don't get too much crazy news, but I like the way it's shaping up so far. Thomas Dye, good to see you, man. I am going to be 20 maxing tonight, so I made that promise, and I'm going to stick to it. All right, guys, let's dig into these games. We don't have enough time to play around too much today. So starting off with the Hornets against the Magic. You guys know I hate playing the Magic, and I love picking on the Hornets. So I'm really conflicted, uh, just mentally right now. But for the Magic, they're pretty healthy. Jonathan Isaac is out, and so that's one reason that they're really just not standing out for me too much. The Hornets, though, have guys out. PJ Washington is doubtful. Cody Martin's still out. LaMelo Ball is still out. The guys who have the highest usage rate on this team with the injuries out, with the guys out that they currently have, are Terry Rozier, Dennis Smith Jr., and Oubre. Those are the guys who've seen the highest increase in usage with like Washington, LaMelo, and crew out. And so we're seeing decent ownership on them. I would say the only guy who's kind of going a little bit under the radar is Dennis Smith Jr. For solid reason. I think he burned us last time out. If he stays this low owned, I'm totally fine with putting like a 10% min on him as a potential leverage play, but there's some decent options in this price range. So it's definitely something I want to dig a little bit deeper into. But Oubre, Rozier are chalky, but I think they're solid chalk on this slate. Oubre does always scare me. If he was 7K or higher, I probably wouldn't be as excited about him. But I like the spot for him. Gordon Hayward is tough. The matchup's fine. Nothing too special. Low ownership is nice. He's not the kind of guy I love forcing exposure to. I'm more willing to take some shots on Mark Williams. But again, the center position, there's just other guys I like more. So unfortunately, it's hard for me to get there. When it comes to the Magic, we know I like playing bigs against the Hornets. The Hornets are bad everywhere, but they're absolutely one of the worst teams in allowing points in the paint. And so I love taking shots on bigs. I wish he was lower owned. Wendell Carter, I wish he was lower owned, or Paolo Banchero. Cole Anthony didn't make it into the Nuts lineup last time out, but that ownership is something that I'm honestly not the biggest fan of. His price tag helps make it make sense. I'm okay with some exposure, but I'm probably going to be closer to around field weight unless I hear something that makes me feel a lot better about him as a play, but he feels a little bit more questionable for me, to be honest. All right, on to the next one. We have the Nets against the Celtics. Injury news, nothing too outside of the usual for the Nets. Sumner, Watanabe, Ben Simmons are all out. For the Celtics, Derek White appears to be healthy, so no worries there. Gallinari's been out for a while. So really, everyone's pretty healthy. In theory, this should be a pretty defensive game. But I know the Nets haven't been as strong defensively as we thought they were going to be. But ultimately, I don't love this matchup for these guys. I do think Tatum is a solid play. He's on my radar as a potential leverage play at 8% ownership. I don't think the sim model likes him too much, if I'm remembering correctly. Yeah, it's not a fan. It's not a fan. But I do think he still has some upside here if this game is able to stay close, which the spread doesn't think it will. But if it does stay close, I think Tatum has some upside. But ultimately, full transparency, I'm not super excited about this game for either side. Next up, we have Portland against the Hawks. Real Light said, are you doing prize picks today? I don't do prize picks, man, but we do on the channel have a really, really, really good prize picks guy. If you click on the DFS Army channel, you'll see our prize picks videos up already for the last few days. And I know they're really good at what they do over there. One day I might consider doing prize picks, but it's not my thing right now, to be honest with you guys. Probably should get into it though. Next up, we have the Hawks against the Trailblazers. The Hawks are healthy, and I don't love playing the Hawks when they're healthy. The Trailblazers are not a team that we should fear from like a defensive standpoint. So you could convince me into taking shots with guys like Trae Young or DeJounte Murray or DeAndre Hunter, things of that sort. But it's really not plays that I'm very excited about. So I'm really going to let the domination station kind of control my fate from a Hawks standpoint. It looks like Clint Capella's getting some ownership, which is interesting, especially with Nurkic still out. I understand that. Still not my favorite spot, to be honest. I do plan on probably having some exposure to Capella, closer to around field weight, but not someone that I plan on like forcing exposure to go over the field on. Let's see. For the Trailblazers, I do have more interest in Damian Lillard, especially if Trae Young and Damian Lillard are going to have similar ownership. Damian Lillard is much more expensive than Trae Young, so that's something that we should take into account. But I like Damian Lillard's usage rate. I like his upside in these kind of spots. Let's see if the sim model likes him a good bit. Yeah, also not a fan of him. So that's probably going to limit the likelihood of me making him a leverage play, but he's someone that I'm totally fine having some exposure to. Trae Young, again, I understand the spot, but I just prefer to play him when someone else is out. So doesn't move the needle for me too much, unfortunately. Outside of that, again, with Anthony Simons listed as doubtful, I'm still fine with taking some shots on guys like Matisse Thybulle, having a little bit of Cam Reddish. I'm fine with that, but again, not guys that I'm super excited about. If Thibault is not showing up in any of my lines. I will put an exposure minimum on him just to make sure he shows up a little bit, around like 5-6% feels right for me. So around field weight. I do want to make sure he's at least showing up in my lines today. And reasoning for that is because Simons should still be out. And again, like Matisse Thybulle, if he does almost anything while he's out there, he's usually able to do pretty well. So I like having some exposure to him just in case. Looks like Watford is projecting pretty well. I know he can be a solid points per minute guy, and at his price tag, I understand the play. I see why he's getting ownership, but hopefully we'll get more injury news that will help us find better value on this slate. Again, fine if we have to do it, but not something I'm excited about. Next up, we have another, guys, the fun games come towards the end of the slate, I promise. But next up, we have the Suns against the Bulls. Another spot I'm not super interested in. I saw an interesting note where it looks like Kevin Durant was a little surprised that he saw as much playing time as he did in his first game. So something tells me he's probably not going to see as much run. It looks like his coach did say that he'll continue to be on a minutes limit for the, was there a time limit on that? Yeah, it looks like he'll be on a minutes limit for the next week or so. So I'm not really expecting him to see a ton of extra run. With that being said, I don't like picking on the Bulls. They're a pretty boring team, but they're a solid defense. No one really stands out for me in this game. Not even my guy Ayton, who we've been on for a long time. I know B-Dubs got Devin Booker right the other night. The sim model still likes Devin Booker, but gonna be a tough one for me to swallow. The sim model likes Ayton. I'll be okay with it. Yeah, it likes Ayton a decent bit. So he's definitely still someone I would consider at this low ownership. That's kind of what stood out. I don't like the matchup. I don't really love his price tag anymore when he's not in the 7K range. But if he's low owned and when a sim model likes him based on the upside, I'm willing to dig a little bit deeper into it to see if he could be like an interesting like 5% kind of leverage play for me today. But outside of that, not super interested in these guys. Vucevic, Levine, DeMar DeRozan. I don't even like playing a ton when they're in great matchups against the Suns. I like them even less. Doesn't mean you can't play them if you just have a really gut call and you really want to take a shot on them at low ownership. That's always a viable play. But again, matchup, when all of them are healthy, I just don't like playing them. Next up, we have the Knicks against the Miami Heat, another pretty defensive team. These games usually almost always end up being pretty low scoring. And so we've seen like Randall have very efficient games in these matchups before, even Jimmy Butler, but it's pretty hit or miss. Not the kind of shots that I like to take because I like to try to find low owned guys who are in plus spots is where I try to take and try and find like the low owned guy who's in a bad spot. Jimmy Butler's questionable though. If Jimmy Butler ends up being out, this slate becomes so much more interesting, but also a lot scarier too. Butler being out is a boost for Max Strus, Tyler Hero, Bam Adebayo, and Victor Oladipo are the main guys who see a boost. Of course, the whole team sees a slight increase in usage and minutes, but I would be much more interested in the Miami Heat if Jimmy Butler's out. What's scary is the matchup is still tough against the Knicks, and the Heat are still streaky shooters at the end of the day. I think everyone has a story about how all of these players have hurt them at some point in time. So hopefully that keeps their ownership relatively low because even though it can end up biting me in the ass, I'm still willing to take a shot on it. So yeah. Not interested now, but if the right guy's out, I'm down. For the Utah Jazz, this game's a bit more interesting here. We see the game totals are starting to increase from the last one, but still is that Clippers, Kings game that has like the most action for the most part. For the Utah Jazz, they're still missing Jordan Clarkson, which is big, and Colin Sexton, which is also big. So we'll look at it a little bit closer. Because of those two guards that are out, it impacts everyone. It's why Lauri Markkanen and was in the nuts line not too long ago. It's not really why Walker Kessler is valued as a solid play tonight, but it's why we see like THT seeing a boost. It's why Chris Dunn is getting a boost. A lot of names that you probably weren't thinking about before when you saw who's actually starting for this team. So what we should expect, THT should start here. We did see Chris Dunn get a little bit more run than I think we expected last time out. And part of that was because Agbaji got hurt during the game. So I do want to be a little careful with Chris Dunn, knowing like that there was some correlation there between a slight increase in minutes, but I'm still totally fine matching the field to him, if not being over the field to a good extent as well. Walker Kessler is definitely on my radar as a potential leverage play. Sim model likes him. I like the spot. Bigs against the Thunder has been something we've been down for most of the year. I think that's enough reasons. The ownership always highlights for me more than anything. And solid matchup too, so I'm not overly concerned about it. And then Lauri Markkanen, the 9,600 price tag does give me a little bit of pause, not gonna lie. But he had a solid game last time out, like I said, with Clarkson and Sexton out. I think he makes sense here. Let's see what the sim model thinks about him at 9,600. Not a fan. I'm still okay with Lauri Markkanen. I'll probably more than likely be closer to field exposure unless the sim model updates throughout the day and is more interested in him. If he was lower owned, I would honestly just make him a leverage play no matter what, but I'm going to try to stay calm today and not do too many crazy things, but we'll see. JJ, good to see you. I hope you're doing well. It's a Friday. I feel like it's hard to be too upset on a Friday. If you are, something bad probably happened, and you're probably upset, rightfully so. For the Thunder, SGA is out once again. Kenrich Williams is still out. Poku is still out, and Shet's been out all year. So, the Isaiah Joe plays have not been going very well. It's like he shoots when SGA is playing, but when he's not playing, he either just misses everything or he's just like, I can just do cardio today. Does that mean I'm jumping off the train? No, it does not. 4,500 Isaiah Joe, sim model still a fan. And I come to that conclusion based on the higher number in the 8x column in comparison to other people in the price range. So I'm still on board here. I'm a really big fan of the sim model. It's helped me win a lot of money over the years, and I usually just kind of stick with it, especially when the play is relatively low owned because he's burned people so many times. I almost always am fine with those kind of plays. Outside of that, I'm fine with Giddey. I'm fine with Lou Dort. But honestly, I'm not super excited about those spots. But there are guys that I do want some exposure to, though, just because SGA is out and their usage increases. We've also seen both Williams do a little bit better as of late. Not my favorite plays on this slate, but I do think they're more viable than they have been in the past just because of their more consistent their more consistent play as of late. All right, moving on. We have the Memphis Grizzlies against the Nuggets. These are two teams I feel like I target a lot just in general. And it's a spot I like again. Steven Adams is out still for the Grizzlies, so that's worth mentioning. Aaron Gordon is probable. Michael Porter Jr. is probable. Kanker is questionable, and Najee is out. No really big injuries that really moved the needle too much. For me, at least, nothing that moves the needle a ton. Outside of I like these players in these spots. So we've been playing guards against the Nuggets all year. A relatively low owned Ja Morant I'm almost always going to be double the field on. So 20% men for me on him. Nikola Jokic facing off against the Grizzlies without Steven Adams, relatively low owned. Totally fine putting a 30% min on him there. The caveat is, will their ownership stay this low? It's still pretty early. Too early to tell, in my opinion. So I'll definitely be taking shots on both of them. If I had to guess, the sim model probably doesn't like John Morant either, because that's been the trend of the day. No, sim model likes John Morant. Nice. We're finally on the same page again. And he likes Jokic a good bit too. So totally fine with both of them being my leverage plays. Like I said, I like the spot. Matchups are solid. I feel good about it. The other guys here, not as much of a fan. I like playing Gordon and MPJ and Jamal Murray when one of the other guys are out. Jamal Murray is definitely still viable at 7,800. Looks like he projects pretty well, but I think it's solid. Sean said, "Hi, what does the STD refer to on the sim model?" It probably stands for standard deviation, but I'm not really a standard deviation guy, so I'm not the one to explain that one to you. So yeah, Jamal Murray's a fine play. KCP I'll be more so of a fan of if someone was out. Similar story with Bruce Brown. But we are relatively desperate for value on this slate as of right now. So that's why you might get some exposure to some of these guys. And I'm the kind of player where if I have to have a few crappy plays to have more of the guys that I want, I'm okay with mixing and matching those as long as the crappy plays aren't too high of a percentage where it's going to just ruin my night. JJJ, 7,700. Some models okay with them. Likes Terry Rozier more, obviously. And CJ a little bit more. But it's fine with them. I've taken a lot of shots on JJJ. I don't love picking on the Nuggets front court. I also don't love picking on centers against Jokic because they get into foul trouble pretty easily. So for once, JJJ might not be a leverage play for me, unless as of right now, unless something else kind of stands out for him. But I don't think so today, sadly. Next up, we have the Pelicans against the Golden State Warriors. For the Pelicans, Joe Val's doubtful. Larry Nance is out. Jose Alvarado is out. Zion's been out for a while, so nothing crazy there. The situation with the Pelicans is one that I want to dig a bit deeper into because we've had foul trouble with Hayes on Wednesday, and we've seen Gomez have decent usage already, but I don't feel strongly enough, to be honest, to say, like, I know a lot of people are going to say, like, Willie Gomez is going to be a fantastic play today with Joe Val listed as doubtful, but I honestly just haven't dug into it enough to sign on and say that he's the guy I want to dictate tonight's slate to. So we'll see. But a guy I do like a lot is Brandon Ingram. The sad thing is everyone else likes him too. Golden State Warriors, their defense doesn't really concern me too much. But we can still look at see what the sim model thinks about Ingram. It's okay with them. But you know who it likes a little bit more? Jordan Poole. I think people will murder me if I make Jordan Poole a leverage play again. But to be honest, there's a pretty good chance I probably do. Especially if he stays around 3% owned. I'll put a 10% min on him and be fine with it. Especially after he burned so many people yesterday as a relatively chalky play. He hasn't been great for the last few games. Something might actually be wrong with him. I don't know. But low ownership plays I'm fine with. Klay Thompson was fantastic last night. Coach said he'll probably keep playing on back-to-backs. So assuming he actually plays tonight, fine play. The price tag is just worrisome. I mean, obviously he's worth it after last night, but I still prefer Poole here. There's probably some decent bias there, so take it as you will. CJ McCollum, Sim model likes him still. He hasn't been in the best of form as of late, so I do have some concerns there, but if his ownership falls around 5%, I'm okay being around 10-15%. DiVincenzo, I don't remember how he did yesterday, to be honest, but he didn't make the Nuts lineup, so he didn't, and he was not good enough. But I'm fine with him here at 5,700. He's seeing solid minutes. The matchup's tough, but I'm not overly concerned about that at 5,700. As long as he plays enough minutes, like he has been, has a solid chance of getting there. The bigs for Golden State, people have been taking shots on like Looney and Kuminga, and it's been working out. But I just struggle with that. It feels so volatile to me. I think I might be missing something, but not my favorite plays, to be honest. But with Joe Val being doubtful, the matchup is softer, and so it makes sense. I do want some exposure, but at least as of right now, I don't have a strong enough take on who I should take the shot on. I want it to be Kuminga just because he's lower owned, but I need to dig deeper because the reason why it gets weird is because Kevin Looney plays less minutes than Kuminga, but he's more efficient with his minutes. And so it just gets strange. And if one of them gets into foul trouble, then the other one benefits greatly. And so it's messy. It's just messy. So it happens. It is what it is. We have to move on. But I do like Poole and Ingram a good bit, and CJ too as well. So I do plan on having some solid exposure to that game. Next up, we have the Clippers against the Kings. I know Paul George let a lot of people down last night. It happens. But Paul George is someone I'm comfortable going right back to be honest. And there's some reasons for that. Kawhi Leonard is out. I mean, I think it's that simple. It's that simple. Carl Neil Tan said, "Where is Sniper?" Sniper does the prop show. He does the show is on the actual channel. Maybe his show isn't up yet, but it will be at some point. He'll be okay. He'll have it up for you, man. He'll have it up for you. Prize Picks. There we go. That's the name I was thinking about. So for Paul George at 8,300. 10% ownership. I think that's going to go up with Kawhi Leonard out. I assume that has to go up. I love this spot for him. Solid play for me. Paul George, when Kawhi's out, I don't think is rocket science, and a solid matchup against the Kings. Here for that all day, every day. Other guys who it's a little tough still to tell who exactly sees the highest increase in usage because there's a lot of new guys on the Clippers. But Russell Westbrook has been taking on a lot of the offensive duties for the Clippers, and so there's a pretty good chance he'll be highly involved. He's already relatively popular on this slate, so I don't think that's a sneaky play or call by any means, but I think he's chalky for good reason, and I think he's a solid play. It does kind of like give me shivers because it feels weird saying Russell Westbrook is a solid play, but Kawhi is out, so I think it makes sense. Other guys I like Terrence Mann a good bit. Would love for his ownership to stay low. He's been playing solid minutes off the bench, which is nice. There's a chance they like to play a little bit smaller at times. So if they do that, he should also see more run. You'll see a lot of these guys project pretty well. Eric Gordon's a fine play on this slate too. With Kawhi out in the starting lineup. Nicholas Batum has been oddly efficient at his low price tag with the minutes he's been playing. So I don't think he's awful either. Long story short, when Kawhi's out, everyone else on the Clippers becomes more interesting. Zubac, we got the news that he was out. Plumlee had a good night. That's something that we'll see a lot. If Zubac is out, I expect Plumlee to have solid nights. We said that on the pre-lock show yesterday, so not a surprising play. Why is everyone surprised by this? Yeah, there should be a prize pick video coming out. Sniper might just be running a little bit late on that, but there will be one if I had to guess, unless he's just taking the day off, but I doubt it. Jabari said Westbrook shitted on me last night. That's tough, man. That's tough. Yeah, I think a lot of the Clippers. Oh yeah, Westbrook was solid, so hopefully we'll be on the train on this one and he keeps it up. Um, yeah, I like all the starters. I am interested in seeing what they do with Bones Highland here, if he sees any additional run. I don't really trust him, to be honest. And yeah, I think that's pretty much it. I like these guys. Plan on having plenty of exposure. Team that I don't want to forget about. The spread is pretty wide here. Looks like Vegas is thinking that there'll probably be some sort of potential blowout. We saw that in the Portland Hawks game and the Nets Celtics game as well. But hopefully Paul George and crew can keep it pretty close. The Kings are much better now, but they're not like scary good, you know? Like I'm not afraid of attacking the Kings. The Kings have De'Aaron Fox listed as questionable. Fox said he expects to play, so take that as you will. With Fox playing, Hoyter, Barnes, all of the streaky shooters like Malik Monk, Keegan Murray, all of them are impacted a decent bit. You don't have to worry about Davion Mitchell anymore if Fox ends up playing. But it's definitely an interesting team from like a value perspective because we're desperate for value. Like Keegan Murray and Harrison Barnes do still project solidly well, but honestly, not a team that I plan on having a ton of exposure to. You could talk me into Sabonis, but I'm not the biggest fan of it today. Just not a big Kings guy tonight. I do want to double check and make sure I'm not missing anything here, but as of right now, I don't think so. Next up, we have probably one of my favorite games on the slate. First off, let's see what the sim model thinks about Anthony Edwards at 9,400. It likes him a decent bit. As you guys know, we can beat the Lakers everywhere. From an injury news standpoint, the Timberwolves have Noel listed as questionable. Cat is out. For the Lakers, we have Anthony Davis listed as probable. D'Angelo Russell is already ruled out. Dennis Schroeder is listed as probable. And then LeBron James has been out for a while. Like I said, the Lakers are not a team to be afraid of. So Anthony Edwards at relatively low ownership. You guys already know what I'm thinking about there. Rudy Gobert's price at 7,400. I don't hate it. Some models on board. Super low owned. Guys know what I'm more than likely doing there. And then Jaden McDaniels has been in solid form here lately. You never know if he's going to be able to keep that up, but he's definitely someone that I think is a viable play against a bad Lakers team too. So Anthony Edwards, Rudy Gobert, Jaden McDaniels are three guys I feel pretty good about having in my lines tonight. Again, I'm 20 maxing, not 150 maxing like I normally do. So I'll probably be closer to like 10, 15% on each of these guys, which means they're like in 3 to 4 of my lines. For the Lakers, LeBron James is out. As long as Anthony Davis plays, I'll always be over the field on him. I really don't care what his price tag is. He just makes too much sense. Matchup's fine against the Timberwolves. Not overly concerned about Gobert here. As long as Anthony Davis feels like playing and wants to be productive today, the Lakers need these wins, and so I expect him to give it his all. I hope. I pray. He should do that. If he actually does, we'll see. Vanderbilt's another guy who's been in solid form as of late, who I think is also a viable play. A guy that, again, I probably won't have in more than like just 1 or 2 of my lines, but I like having him there. Like I said, we've seen the guys with the highest usage rate on this team are Anthony Davis at 30.8%, Dennis Schroeder in second place at 24.7%, and then Malik Beasley at 23.1%. Those 3 guys, Beasley, Schroeder, Davis, are the 3 guys I want the most exposure to here. Austin Reeves is still viable in my mind at 4,100 and low ownership too. So yeah, I like the Lakers when LeBron's not playing. Not super surprising. Thomas Dye said, let's go 20 max. Agreed, man. Agreed. All right, y'all. Well, I appreciate everyone for tuning in. For those concerned, I'm sure Sniper will have his video out here soon. For prize picks, he's been crushing those, so definitely do check that out if you haven't. But yeah, I appreciate everyone for tuning in and look forward to seeing everyone later today on the Prelock Show. Have a good one. Peace out, guys.